Have you ever wondered why some people walk through life almost untouched? Why nothing seems to break them? Why they remain calm in chaos, firm in uncertainty, and unshaken in conflict, while others collapse under the smallest pressure? These few emerge stronger after every challenge, as if they are built from a different material. What if I told you that Nietzsche believed this difference had nothing to do with luck, destiny, or talent, but with one single concept that shapes the entire architecture of your mind, a concept that creates the gap between the fragile and the unbreakable, between those who suffer endlessly and those who transform suffering into strength? This video is about that concept and how you can use it to build a mind that becomes truly untouchable. So prepare yourself. What you're about to hear may confront you, challenge you, and force you to look into places within yourself you've avoided for years. But if you stay until the end, you may walk away with something that will change the course of your life. Let's begin. Nietzsche observed something timeless. The world does not pause for your pain. It doesn't stop spinning because you are overwhelmed or exhausted or lost. He wrote that life is fundamentally chaotic, uncertain, and often cruel, and that the universe offers no guarantee of fairness. This sounds harsh, too, but it's also liberating, because once you stop believing the world should treat you gently, you stop being shocked when it doesn't, and you begin to build the one thing that can protect you, a stronger self. Today, many people crumble at the first sign of discomfort. A disagreement feels like an attack. Rejection feels like a catastrophe. A difficult conversation feels like violence. Nietzsche would say, you suffer because you expect life to be easier than it is. You want people to understand you, to be gentle with your feelings, to read your needs without you expressing them, to protect you from discomfort. But here is the truth Nietzsche repeats again and again. That which is fragile must break. That which is strong must be forged. And the forging process always involves fire. Every pressure exposes your weak points. Every disappointment shows you where your expectations were illusions. Every hardship strips away the parts of you that were never truly yours. You become unbreakable, not by avoiding the flames, but by walking through them and discovering that you can survive. You can endure. You can grow. We live in an era obsessed with comfort. Comfort food, comfort entertainment, comfort relationships, comfort thinking. But Nietzsche warned that comfort was the silent killer of the human spirit. He believed that a constantly comfortable life produces weak people, individuals who have no resilience, no ambition, no inner authority. The secret of greatness, he wrote, is the ability to endure pain without collapsing. Not because suffering is noble, but because suffering is inevitable. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you shrink just a little. You lose a piece of your potential. You trade long-term strength for short-term relief, and relief is addictive. You avoid conflict so you don't feel anxious. You avoid challenges so you don't feel pressure. You avoid ambitions so you don't feel fear. You avoid speaking up so you don't feel tension. But the more you avoid discomfort, the more discomfort controls you. What you fear begins to dominate you. What you run from begins to define you. And slowly, without realizing it, you create the most painful prison of all. A life where everything terrifies you because you have trained yourself to be fragile. Nietzsche believed the opposite of comfort was not suffering, it was aliveness. It's a feeling of overcoming something difficult. The energy that comes from facing a challenge. It's the confidence that comes from standing your ground. It's the pride that comes from knowing you didn't break. These moments create a mind that becomes untouchable. Not because nothing hurts, but because nothing destroys you anymore. This is the core of Nietzsche's philosophy, the foundation of the unbreakable mind. The will to power. It is not about domination, manipulation, or control over others. It is about mastery over yourself. It is the inner force that pushes you to expand, to grow, to rise above your past self, to shape your life instead of being shaped by it. According to Nietzsche, every human has a flame inside them, but most let it dim, because they are taught to be obedient, agreeable, predictable. Society likes weak individuals. They are easier to manage, easier to silence, easier to control. But you are not born to be passive. The will to power appears every time you say, I can do more than this. I can become more than this. I refuse to live at this level. I will not be controlled by fear. I will shape myself. It is the moment you decide to stop being a spectator of your life and start being its creator. When this will becomes stronger than your desire for comfort, stronger than your fear of conflict, stronger than your need for approval, you become untouchable. Because nothing external can dominate a person who has mastered their internal world. Nietzsche believed that the highest psychological strength comes from one thing, amor fati, the love of fate. It's not accepting your life, not tolerating your struggles, but loving them because they shape you. Imagine this mindset. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You say, how can this strengthen me? Instead of wishing your past was different, you turn it into fuel. Instead of hating your obstacles, you use them as weights to build muscle. This is not toxic positivity. It is radical responsibility. You stop negotiating with reality. You stop resisting what already is. You stop wishing life was softer. You begin to say, I will take all of this, the pain, the loss, the setbacks, the disappointments, the fear, and forge myself into something stronger. You become unbreakable because you stop expecting comfort and start extracting power from discomfort. Nietzsche believed that no one becomes strong in a crowd. Strength is built in solitude, when the noise of the world fades and you are forced to face yourself. Not your social persona, not your mask, not the version of you shaped by others' expectations, but the real self beneath it all. Solitude is uncomfortable because it strips away distraction. It forces you to confront the truth, your fears, your weaknesses, your desires, your potential, hard potential. Most people avoid solitude because they are terrified of what they will find. But Nietzsche believed solitude was sacred, a place where transformation happens, where you stop living for approval, where you stop performing for others, where you begin to hear your own voice clearly. If you cannot stand alone, you'll always be controlled by the group. If you cannot rely on your own judgment, you'll be manipulated by external noise. If you cannot find peace in your own company, you will accept toxic company to avoid silence. Solitude is where the unbreakable mind is born. Nietzsche wrote of the Bermensch, not a superior human in the physical sense, but someone who transcends their old self. Someone who evolves continuously, who refuses to stay small, who refuses to be defined by their past. To Nietzsche, the greatest enemy is not other people. It is the weak version of yourself that you keep dragging into your future. The part of you that complains instead of acts, that fears instead of confronts, that waits instead of creates, that seeks approval instead of authority, that hides instead of expresses, that clings instead of grows. You overcome yourself when you outgrow the version of you that was built by fear, comfort, and insecurity. And this transformation is what makes you truly untouchable. Once you surpass who you used to be, no one can pull you back. Not their opinions, not their judgment, not their rejection, not their disrespect, not their expectations. You are no longer shaped by others. You shape yourself. So, what does an unbreakable mind look like in real life? It doesn't mean you feel nothing, okay? It means your emotions are not your master. It doesn't mean you avoid conflict. It means conflict does not threaten your identity. It doesn't mean you never fail. It means failure becomes instruction, not destruction, okay? It doesn't mean life becomes easier, okay? It means you become stronger than whatever life throws at you. This mind walks into a room with quiet power. It's as little, but radiates presence. It's calm, not because nothing is happening, but because inner chaos has been conquered. People sense it. They feel your boundaries. They respect your silence. They hesitate before testing you, not because you intimidate them, but because you are not psychologically available for disrespect. You don't beg for approval. You don't collapse under pressure. You don't explain yourself to those who misunderstand intentionally. You don't tolerate manipulation. You don't fear being alone. Your center is within you, not in the hands of others. That is the unbreakable mind Nietzsche envisioned. A mind that stands firm in storms, that grows through adversity, that shapes itself, that commands respect, that cannot be bent, that cannot be broken. And now we arrive at the final question. Are you ready to become untouchable? You have a choice: to continue living with a fragile identity that depends on comfort, approval, and external validation, or begin the journey of forging a stronger, deeper, more powerful version of yourself. This path is not soft. It requires discipline, confrontation, truthfulness, and courage. But if you take it, you will rise above the version of you that life has been breaking again and again. You will become someone who doesn't beg to be treated well, but commands respect through presence alone. Someone who doesn't collapse under pressure, but uses it as fuel. Someone who doesn't run from discomfort, but extracts strength from it. Someone who doesn't break, even when everything around them does. Because your power will no longer depend on the world. It will come from within. That is Nietzsche's ultimate gift. A philosophy, not of darkness, but of rebirth. So, let me ask you, which part of yourself are you ready to outgrow? Your fear, your passivity, your self-doubt, your dependence on others' approval? Write it in the comments. Your answer might be the first step toward a mind that nothing and no one can break. Thanks for watching.